This is Rock and Roll English. Real people, real English. Here's your host, Martin Johnston.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Rock and Roll English. Episode number 145, baby. Oh yeah. In today's episode, I speak to Dan the Man about, if you celebrate Easter and that kind of thing, today is a special day because it is Easter Monday. Yes, that's the name of today. So we speak about the way people celebrate Easter from all around the world because, you know, Rock and Roll English is a global community. And one thing I would like to say is there is a story involving me and Winnie the Pooh. The story sounds very bad, but I promise my version of the story is the truth. Okay, just remember that. Anyway, remember all of the rock and roll vocabulary is on the website rockandrollenglish.com, and if you want a podcast every day of the week, you can listen to my boring voice every day of the week. Just think how wonderful that would be. Plus you would have a transcript and lots of other benefits. Then go to rockandrollenglish.com/family. I will stop talking now. Here is the episode. Happy listening. Dan the Man, how are you today?
I'm good, how are you?
Always fantastic, Dan. Always fantastic. Are you still confident Brexit isn't happening?
Well, I haven't been watching too much about what's going on, but I am still confident, yeah.
I've said it before, I think. I actually kind of hope it does happen now, just so you're wrong. Because if it doesn't happen, all I'm going to fucking hear is, I told you it wasn't going to happen. So there's a part of me that wants it now.
Do you know, as well, I thought that as well the other day, because I thought if we do leave and everything does go terrible for the country, there will be a bit of satisfaction for me to turn around to people and go, you're a fucking idiot for voting like that. So I'm in two minds.
I'm with you. Anyway, Dan, how do we usually start the show?
With a review.
Oh, yeah, baby. Do you think we have a review?
Yes.
Yes, we do. And what a review it is. It's from Sophia Chung. I hope that's correct pronunciation. And it says, what an amazing podcast. I shared this podcast with my son about a year ago, even though my son didn't like learning English at the time. He is now addicted to your podcast, and what a surprise, his English has improved a lot since then. I have to admit you mention quite a lot sex, drugs and swear words from a mother's point of view, but never mind, just keep on rocking and walking. Oh yes.
That's a bloody good review. How old's her son though? Hopefully he's not 4 hearing about you talk about sex and...
This was a bit of a worry because I don't think he's particularly old, but we're educating him. We're educating him for life. I would also like to say hello to him because I believe his name is Jared. I'm sorry again if that's not correct, but Jared, we are preparing you for life here. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Exactly. Anyway, Dan, do you know what day it is today?
It's Monday.
It's not just any Monday, is it though, Dan?
I don't know. What Monday is it?
Easter Monday, Dan. There we go. Just not really fast enough, are you?
Listen, you're doing that because obviously we record this beforehand, all right? And you're trying to catch me out.
Some lovely rock and roll vocabulary there, trying to catch me out, trying to trick me. I'm not trying to catch anyone out, Dan. Okay? All I want is for people to be prepared, okay?
Okay.
To be professionals. That's what I am, okay? So Dan, I know how excited you get about Easter. You get excited about everything, but especially Easter. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, you know me too well.
What is your favourite holiday out of interest?
I mean, surely it's got to be Christmas.
Do you know what? I think they're all a bit shit because it's just organised fun again, isn't it? It's too much pressure to have fun.
I've heard you say this on podcasts with like Boom Boom or Clarification Charlie. I can't remember who it was. And I was thinking to myself as I was transcribing these episodes, do you have fun outside of the holiday season? Because you're talking like this as if you're some sort of fun maniac.
Oh, I'm a fun maniac. All right, just a standard weekend for me, you know, when it's not planned, spontaneous. That's me, Dan. I live life on the edge. So if you live life on the edge, you live dangerously, let's say. And that is very much me.
What have you done recently that's on the edge?
Good question. So the other day, when I got in from work on a school night, so school night is during the week. Normally I just have water when I drink, but you know what, Dan? I had a beer.
Wow.
Exactly.
Did you throw up?
Nearly. So throw up. Were you sick? Vomited? Anyway, to celebrate this special day, Easter Monday, we're going to talk a little bit about Easter. And because this is, an international podcast, there's people from around the world that listen. We've got traditions from each country, okay? Well, not each country, not every country in the world. About 10 countries. And we're going to have a little chat about them. All right, Dan?
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, so we've got Hungary, okay, where apparently there's something called sprinkling, which is quite famous there, which is when boys sprinkle perfume or aftershave over a woman's head and ask for a kiss. So when I say sprinkle, just like spray a little bit. And it's supposed to have like a cleaning effect on them and heal them and make them more fertile. So apparently the boys are just going around spraying the girls with like aftershave. So that must be a nice experience.
I'd imagine if you did that in England, you'd end up with a black eye.
I would imagine so as well. It's a black eye when someone punches you and your eye goes black. It's happened to me a few times. Have you ever got a black eye, Dan?
I once, when we played football when I was younger and I fell into the goalpost.
So the post is like the part of the goal, quite hard, so it would give you a black eye. Not quite sure how you managed to fall into a goalpost though. I got mine a couple of times, on a night out, drunken fight. And when I say fight, it generally involved people punching me.
Yeah, I took you to hospital.
Yeah, I remember, yeah. Well, that wasn't a great day for me, Dan, so thanks for reminding me of that day. But I'm okay. I'm here. So yeah, going back to the sprinkling aftershave on people. Do you wear aftershave these days, Dan?
Yeah, well, not all the time. I do.
See, I don't wear it anymore. But it's just no need now. The only reason I used to wear it was because I used to think girls love this. I used to think, look, I know I'm boring. I know I'm not good looking. But if I put on some Calvin Klein aftershave, the girls are going to go crazy.
Did they?
Didn't work, but, it was worth a try. Speaking of this work, reminds me when I was at university, one of my friends once, like he was just as much as a loser as me, never getting girls. And then we went out once and I think I stayed at his house actually. I don't know why. And then in the morning I noticed he had a condom in his jacket pocket. And I said, why did you take a condom out? It's not like you ever need it. And he said, well, it was Valentine's night, wasn't it? I was like, what difference does that make? And he said, well, girls are just more like up for having sex on Valentine's night. And then in the end, he slept in bed with me. So,
did he use the condom?
Luckily, no. Okay, so we've got France. So you know something about France, don't you, Dan?
Well, a bit, I guess, yeah.
Even though you've never actually been outside in France. But apparently they love omelettes. And in a town called Haux, I don't know, they make an omelette with 4,500 eggs because apparently that's what Napoleon did.
Jesus, really?
Are you still such a big fan of Napoleon? Do you still have a picture of him above your bed and kiss the picture before you go to bed?
Well, that's never happened. I'm not a fan of Napoleon. I just once read a book on him and that was enough for you to be like I was a fan.
Dan thought he was Napoleon for a while. Just like he thought he was a mountain climber because he read a few books about people climbing mountains.
I tell you what, I'm never telling you again what books I'm reading, all right? Do you think you're a professional footballer because you like to read footballer biographies?
Very similar to a professional footballer. Very similar. I chose the career of an English teacher, though, Dan. I had the choice. Do you want to be a professional footballer and earn millions, or an English teacher and earn hardly anything? I chose the second option. Okay, that's me. I'm a man of the people.
You're a man of honour. Yeah.
Exactly. So in Brazil, apparently there's a tradition of making dolls made from straw. So straw is the stuff that horses eat. To represent Judas. We all know about Judas, don't we? He was the one that, wasn't very kind to Jesus, let's say, was a bit of a bastard to Jesus. And then they create the dolls and then they just beat them up and start punching them.
Why?
Exactly. Why make something and then just punch it? Find something else to do. It does remind me, though, of when once I was having a fight with my teddy bear. I used to do some wrestling moves. At
least you weren't shagging it.
Exactly. So remember, shagging is having sex. I've never had sex with a teddy bear. Okay, I just want to clarify that. Instead, I used to try out some of my wrestling moves because I was quite into like WWF. So when I say I was quite into it, I was quite interested in it. And I had this really big Winnie the Pooh. And
you definitely fucked it.
I definitely did not fuck Winnie the Pooh. I was doing some wrestling moves on it, and then in the sort of heat of the moment, so the heat of the moment when it was all sort of, all going off, it was all crazy, I tried to punch the Winnie the Pooh and accidentally punched myself in the balls.
How is that even possible?
It was a wrestling match, Dan. Okay, it was a crazy match, and then I was on the floor. So essentially,
Winnie the Pooh won.
Exactly, Winnie the Pooh won. I lost a wrestling match to a teddy bear of Winnie the Pooh. That is, how hard I am. So when people say if they're hard, they're like strong in a fight. So that's why I'm not very good in a fight.
This does sound like an elaborate story because maybe your mum walked in with you rolling around Winnie the Pooh and then you started going, "It's okay, I'm wrestling. You're holding your balls. I'm wrestling."
I admit, now you put it like that, it does sound a bit dodgy. So if it sounds dodgy, it sounds, not normal, something a bit disturbing. But I can promise you, it was just a good, clean wrestling fight. And I lost the fight. Okay, it was a shame. Winnie the Pooh is a difficult opponent. So was very difficult. So let's move on from that sort of strange experience to Sweden, where apparently children dress up as witches and they wear long skirts and they go around from home to home, like knocking on people's doors and asking for sweets.
Like Halloween.
Exactly. This is what I thought. Are we getting confused here with Halloween?
They eat chocolate eggs on Halloween, don't they?
Yeah, I know. They need to bloody sort themselves out in Sweden. So sort themselves out. They need to organise their lives. It's bloody crazy.
Is that just the kids, though? Or is Boom Boom going to be dressing in a skirt?
I don't know. We'll have to ask him, actually. Good question. In Indonesia, apparently, they do like plays and young men consider it an honour to play Jesus in the play and also an honour to be tied to a cross. I'm not sure if I would be keen on getting tied to a cross. How about you, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, it's not up there on my list.
Your list of things to do before you die, or on the things that you want to do before the end of the year. How's that list going, Dan?
Well, it's a long way to go, so let's not start reviewing that yet. Talking about actually, kids' plays. I was talking to someone the other day. My cousin, when she was 4 or 5, and obviously they were not auditioning, but giving roles in the play. So
auditioning, by the way, is when there's a play and you're all trying to get that part, and you have to do like a little bit, and then they say, okay, yeah, you've got the big part.
Yeah, exactly. So obviously they gave the parts out to people who had lines and had to say things, and she was a blade of grass.
So a blade of grass is just one tiny piece of grass. Important role to be a blade of grass. I remember we did a school play when we were very young, Dan, in primary school, probably about 6 or 7, of Robin Hood. I don't know if everyone's familiar with that story. Guess who I played, Dan? Do you remember?
I imagine it's Robin Hood because you wouldn't have brought it up otherwise.
You know what? I'd forgotten about it, Dan. I did play Robin Hood. You're right.
Yeah.
I can't remember who you were, but I think you were probably a blade of grass as well.
No, I'll tell you what. We once did a Christmas nativity play, and guess what I was?
Oh, don't tell me you were Jesus.
No. I was one of the kings.
Oh, one of the kings. I was probably... I was going to say Joseph, but then Joseph's not that important anyway, is he?
Yeah, exactly. Although once we played... I once played a rat.
Again, an important job. In our primary school as well, we used to do hymn practice. So hymns are the songs that you sing in church, which was obviously quite fun. I think Dan, actually, if I remember rightly, definitely someone in the class, so I'm just going to say it was you because I can't remember who, got told to stop singing the hymns because they were so bad at singing. It's just like, okay, Dan, that's enough. That's enough.
That sounds like it could be me, but it definitely wasn't.
I think it definitely was. Speaking of hymns, though, this sort of brings me on quite nicely to the next one. In Florence, apparently, in Italy, obviously, a huge decorated wagon, like a big sort of cart, maybe, that like normally horses pull along, is pulled through the streets by white oxen. I didn't actually know what oxen meant, Dan. Do you know what oxen is?
No.
It's the plural of ox. Did you know?
I mean,
that?
I could have had to guess that.
You could have, but you didn't. That's the thing.
Yeah, well,
isn't
because if I'd got it wrong, you would have crucified me.
Yeah, some nice conditional there, Dan. Do you know what conditional that was?
Second.
Well, I think it was supposed to be the third. You just got it wrong. You were supposed to say, if I had got it wrong, you would have crucified me. So crucified, someone put someone on a cross, exactly what we were talking about before. I didn't even know what an ox was. You know, everyone always says in England, like, he's as strong as an ox. But I didn't really know what an ox was. I've found out since that it's either a cow or bull. It's kind of that thing.
Yeah, I knew that.
Right, I didn't know that. But I'm happy to admit it, not like you. Oh, yeah, I did know that. I just didn't say it. That's the difference, Dan. Anyway, so they pull this wagon through the streets until it reaches the cathedral, where they play Gloria, which is my favourite hymn.
Yeah, I know. You can't stop telling me that as well.
Let's just have a quick listen to that. There's just nothing better in church when that's on and you're just clapping. Everyone's so involved. It's just brilliant.
How often do you go to church?
In the last probably 10 years, I've been twice. So
yeah,
it's great. When I was trying to find that, though, I also found this version of that song. Unfortunately, I've never been in a church when they play that song, but that's like a techno version, isn't it? I can just imagine all the 90-year-old women just going crazy to that one.
Off their head on drugs.
Exactly. And all taking drugs and just dancing, the priest going crazy, throwing things across the church. Jesus, maybe I will go to church a bit more.
Yeah.
So in Bermuda, apparently, they celebrate Good Friday with hot cross buns, which is like a famous sort of delicacy, I suppose, in Britain. And I thought that was a bit strange. So I did a bit more research into it. And apparently it was an English teacher that was trying to teach them about Easter and then couldn't really make himself understood. So then he just got some hot crust buns out and said, let's just eat these.
Oh, you know, that was the big takeaway from Easter.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure he was like, well, you know, like Jesus was there, he died. And then he could see people weren't understanding and he said, how can I get their attention? And then he started eating one of these and everything was great. And then they're like, oh, yeah, great. Hot cross buns. Maybe he started drinking beer as well.
I'll tell you what, I really fancy a hot cross bun now.
Yeah, they're good, aren't they? Bloody hot cross buns. In Bulgaria, apparently, they love eggs and they throw eggs at each other, which, you know, can you imagine that? Just sort of waking up and your mum throwing an egg at you? You just be like, okay, thanks, Mum.
But it is people you know, isn't it? It's not like you're walking along the street and then someone eggs you.
Well,
someone egged me on a night out once. I was so angry.
Tell us more about this. So when you get egged, someone literally throws an egg at you. So just to clarify, you were on a night out with your friends and someone egged you.
Well, the egg didn't hit me. But
well, you didn't get egged then, did you?
Well, no. Well, basically, I was walking home. It was about 1 o'clock in the morning. I was wearing my I was wearing my favourite jacket. And it cost me a lot of money. And a car sort of pulled...
I could just imagine this jacket. Just like Dan the Man going out with his jacket thinking, oh yeah, I've got my favourite jacket on tonight. Watch out, ladies. Be careful. Dan the Man is on the prowl. So when you're on the prowl, it's when you're looking for women.
Yeah. And some aftershave. I felt good. Anyway, so I was walking home and it was about 1 o'clock and a car was driving next to me. And it was driving slowly. It had like blacked windows, so I couldn't see in. And I was sort of looking at it.
It's like a drive-by. So a drive-by is when people get shot in a car, but this was just an egg coming out of the car.
Yeah, and then so I was looking at it as I was walking, and then the front window and the back window came down, and they just started hurling eggs at me.
So they started throwing eggs, but none of them connected. You didn't get hit.
Well, no, they were bad throws, and then they sort of went all around my feet because I was sort of like dodging them and stuff.
How many eggs were there?
There was about 3 eggs.
It sounds like a machine gun of eggs.
No, there was about 3 eggs. Anyway, so I sort of dodged them all. Sort of moved out of the way, and I sort of stood there because I didn't know what to do. And then I sort of stood there, and then it suddenly just sort of drove off. And then, I tell you what, it was not a very nice experience. Piece of shit. I actually once also, down the same road, saw that happen to someone where it wasn't me, thank God, but it was the car drove past and just lobbed an egg and it hit him straight in the chest all over his clothes, and this was before the night out.
It was before the night out.
Yeah.
Well, at least maybe he could go home and change his top. So when he said there they lobbed an egg, that's another way again to say they threw an egg. At least your favourite jacket was saved though, hey Dan?
Yeah, thank God.
Was that the jacket you were wearing when you met Mrs. Dan the Man?
It was, actually.
Oh, the story just gets better and better. Anyway, on that note, I think that is a wonderful time to finish the episode on Dan the Man's jacket.
Yeah.
Long
exactly.
live Dan the Man's wonderful jacket.
Yeah. I'll put a picture up.
Yeah, a picture will be fine, thanks.
Yeah.
I can just imagine this model picture of you modelling. I want you like sitting down, like holding your hair for the picture, okay?
Yeah. And an egg.
Exactly, yeah. Perfect. Yeah. Okay, thanks a lot, Dan the Man.
All right, I'll speak to you later.
Speak to you later. Bye-bye.
Right, bye.
Okay, so that was Dan the Man and me speaking about Easter, baby. So let's have a look at some of that rock and roll vocabulary. Dan the Man said that I was trying to catch him out when I asked him what day it was today. So when you try to catch someone out, it's when you try to trick them, let's say. I then told him I live life on the edge because I don't like the normal holidays. I like spontaneous things. I live life on the edge. I live life dangerously. That is me. And then I was telling him that on a school night I had a beer. So a school night is basically a night when the day after you have school, hence school night. Makes sense really, doesn't it? Even though I don't actually go to school, I still call it a school night. Then when I told him I drank that beer, he said, "Did you throw up?" So throw up is another way to say vomit in England. Much more common than vomit, actually. No one really says vomit. It's a bit formal, almost. Well, I mean, if you're talking about that, it's not really formal, but the most formal way to say it is vomit. We were talking about black eyes. Remember, when someone punches you in the eye, what happens? Your eye goes black. And how do we call that? Black eye. It all makes sense. Then Dan the Man asked me if I was shagging Winnie the Pooh. So shag is a way to say have sex, really. That's actually probably the most common way to say it in England, actually, because fuck is really vulgar, really, really vulgar and horrible. Shag's not the best, I must admit, but it's better than fuck. And just for the record, I did not sexually abuse Winnie the Pooh. Okay, I said that I was quite into WWF, so when you're into something, you're interested in it. Then I was saying that in the heat of the moment, I accidentally punched myself in the balls, the testicles. So when you do something in the heat of the moment, it's when you do something without thinking because you're very angry or excited, which is exactly what I was. I was very excited to be having that wrestling fight with Winnie the Pooh. I said it sounds a bit dodgy. So if something sounds dodgy, it sounds a bit, I don't know about that, a bit disturbing. We had sort out again when I said people in Sweden need to sort themselves out. They need to organise their lives. It's crazy. They're celebrating Halloween at Easter. It makes no sense. Then we were talking about school plays for a bit, and Dan the man said that his cousin had to audition for a play. So if you're an actor, they don't just give you the role in the film or the play, do they? You have to have a little trial. What's the name of that little trial thing? An audition. So you can even use it as a verb. I was auditioning. Then he said that his cousin was a blade of grass. So a blade of grass is one piece of grass. Then we were talking about hymns. So hymns are the things that you sing in church, the songs. And we had some real good hymns today, didn't we? We also had the word crucify when Dan said you would have crucified me. That is actually very connected to Easter. It's when you put someone on a cross. Jesus was crucified, for example, but we use it in a kind of metaphorical sense, I suppose, because Dan didn't really think I was going to nail him to a cross. We had the term strong as an ox. It's a common thing to say, even though I didn't really understand what an ox was. It's something that I have heard a million times. He's as strong as an ox. He's very strong. Then we were talking about getting eggs. So if someone eggs you, they throw an egg on you. We also then had on the prowl when I said Dan the man is on the prowl. If you're on the prowl, you're looking for women. It's actually used for animals when they're looking for other animals to kill. But we can also use it in this sense when you're looking for women. Try to think of the similarities between those two things. Then I said that this egging situation sounded like a drive-by. So a drive-by is when a car comes up to someone and just starts shooting. That is known as a drive-by, but we had a kind of egg-by. I don't know if that's a real thing. I've just invented it. Then we had a few different words for throwing. Dan said they were hurling eggs at me, and then they lobbed an egg at the other guy. So both of them mean throwing. Anyway, that is all of the rock and roll vocabulary for today. Remember, it's all on the website, rockandrollenglish.com. Go there, use it, find it, etc. And remember, if you do want a podcast every day, and if you do want to listen to my boring voice, rockandrollenglish.com/family, baby. I will see you all again next week, people. But in the meantime, just keep on rocking, baby.